wanting to do one of these for a long time, and here we are. Mafia III, the third and most recent game in the series, was released back in 2016, and as I recently completed it, I thought that I would tell you guys my experiences with my first ever game in the series, my thoughts, what I did and didn't like, and so on. So, let's take a crack at it. Mafia III is set in the fictitious city of New Bordeaux, which is basically just New Orleans, down to some parts of it being very reminiscent of the real-life city. Personally, I'm just glad that it's not New York taking a pounding for once. The city feels unique in a lot of areas, with the Bayou being maybe my favourite example of this, and considering the 1960s era that it's set in, its timeline actually matches really nicely too. It's a solid sandbox with a lot of nice scenery that's as fun to drive around in as it is to kill gangsters in. And considering the game's dark themes, I like how the weather changes to reflect it sometimes. Even the music, which almost completely consists of African American artists' original versions of songs, fits the shifts in tone that the story often takes. And this isn't just down to the city's appearance either. The character designs are pretty unique, with even the civilian to standard goons looking different enough from each other. But it's obvious that a lot of that design aspect went to the characters who actually appear in cutscenes, which I think was a smart move. I'd rather see the Marcano family converse than hear some guy in the street complain because I ran over his wife. On accident, of course, you understand. I already got the timeline out of the way earlier, but one thing that I like is that while it predominantly takes place in the 60s, it's squeezed between a documentary set in the modern day. Father James, one of the game's characters, tells of experiences with the game's main character Lincoln Clay, and the impact that he had on New Bordeaux's criminal underworld. Whether or not that was a good impact depends a lot on some of the choices that you actually make in the game. The story is told well, it captures its era nicely, and it's got some very heavy dark themes that keep a consistent tone, which is rare for a sandbox game. And a lot of the dialogue helps with that too, almost always reminding you that yes, this is the 60s, so get used to hearing a lot of very colourful racial epithets that begin with the letter N. You already know which ones. Having said that, it can take a while to get to the meatier aspects of the story. Sure, the racial slurs aren't always there, in cutscenes at least, and I like how Clay uses his Vietnam experience to scare the shit out of the Marcano family when he kills someone and, uses psychological warfare. That's a good touch. But there is a lot of just sort of uninteresting villains to get through, except for Tony D'Orazio. He was the most entertaining bad guy without the surname Marcano, in my opinion. Speaking of characters, your main man in this game is Lincoln Clay, an African-American Vietnam War veteran who, at the start of the game, returns from said war. He works under a man named Sammy Robinson, who runs the Hollow, the black central part of New Bordeaux. The main villain, Sal Marcano, as his son Georgie, betray Clay near the start of the game as Clay refuses to hand the Hollow over to Sal near the beginning. Along the way, Clay recruits the likes of Haitian leader Cassandra, Irish mechanic shop owner Thomas Burke, and Mafia II protagonist Vito Scaletta. The choices that you make against the Marcano underbosses and capos again do affect what happens to Clay by the end, with the three I mentioned earlier liable to murder each other and possibly Clay too. I like that depending on whichever underboss you give the most to run through the game, they all have a different ending when the game, well, ends. Burke fucks things up horribly, Cassandra gets into a bit of everything then disappears, and Vito is the only guy who actually does anything right with it, giving him an oddly satisfying character arc considering how he was in 2, leading up to 3. So it's really good to see that. Another small part I like is how your choices in regards to killing Sal's family members affect Lincoln's ending. It's not a huge impact, but I have to give credit to the writing team for recognising that, as violent as Clay gets into the later stages of the game, he doesn't kill others without reason. It does at least take steps to humanise him, small ones though they may be. I will admit, as much as I've liked everything else, the gameplay isn't perfect. It is inherently a very Rockstar-leaning sandbox game, which means you drive around a lot, but you do get to listen to cool music while you do it. A lot of the game is heavy on cover-based shooting, and the melee combat feels pretty basic even though you're playing as, a Vietnam War veteran. Where the game does shine in its combat is with the stealth parts of it. I had a Far Cry 3-esque sense of elation when I sneaked behind a wall, whistled, then killed some racist gangster, rinse, repeat. It's made less easy with civilians around to see, and there's not many unique enemy types, but it does feel satisfying if you can pull it all off well enough. One thing that does get my goat is the travel system. Don't get me wrong, I could drive around and listen to awesome music all day in the game, but besides moving around on foot, using vehicles is the only other option to get from point A to point B. There are no fast travel points at all in the game, and that could have helped massively in certain parts of it. The game has some great voice acting, a nice reliance on its dark storytelling and setting, and some really good music. I love the chemistry that Lincoln has with John Donovan, whose actor is up there for my favourite performance in this game besides Father James, and Lincoln himself feels like a well-realised character too. He's aware of the dark path that he's down, and he doesn't stop until the end. Well, whoever it ends for him, that is. I also like the smaller aesthetic touches, and the design team did a good job in creating a good atmosphere. It feels as close to New Orleans as I'm likely going to get to, and it's just fun to drive around the city in general. While I would have liked a fast travel system, I'm willing to forgive its absence as long as I can listen to Soul Man for another spin. And depending on the length of the drive, maybe I'll get 2 spins if I'm lucky. While the game isn't the most innovative or original in terms of its combat and the characters' moves looked weird in the otherwise well shot and blocked cutscenes, it's clear that the game has a focus and leans well into that. It's a dark, grim story told through the eyes of a man who already knew how bad humans could be, and its unique characters, killer soundtrack, and brilliant voice acting and story are definitely worth picking this game up for. And that'll about do it for this review. Now, typically I don't rate these kinds of things, but fuck it, I grade albums all the time, so I'm actually going to give this game an 8 out of 10. So yeah, I'm going for 10 10-star ratings. And yeah, I thought it was really good. I've already mentioned the reasons why. I like the story, I like the characters. Wasn't too big on the combat, but also it has really great music, so I'm willing to forgive it for that. Now, the next video game review I'll see you for will probably be Overlord 2. I haven't written that yet, so I'm gonna probably get to that at some point soon. And I want to say thank you to everyone who tuned into the Go Home stream for Defy the Gods 2 last night. It was an incredible Go Home show, and I really had a lot of fun. That tag team match was straight fire. That was so good. Really enjoyed that. And the next thing I see you for could be a very brief history of Cranberries tomorrow or some point in the next 3 days. I'm not really sure when that will be. And then, well, not the full episode because it's going to be a two-parter, so I don't know when I'll be able to get those out. Probably Monday and Tuesday because I don't want to do too many videos in a row in case it's Fight of the Night this Sunday. So I'm not going to be doing a video on Saturday. So I'm probably going to try and get the very brief history for Cranberries done tomorrow. I mean, they're easy videos to make, so that's a pretty simple thing to do. And yeah, with that most likely being the next thing, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that my grade was pretty fair, and I'll see you all for the next thing that I do. So as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.